This is the BiggerPockets Podcast show. I don't even know.
284.
284.
You're listening to BiggerPockets Radio, simplifying real estate for investors large and small. If you're here looking to learn about real estate investing without all the hype, you're in the right place. Stay tuned and be sure to join the millions of others who have benefited from BiggerPockets.com, your home for real estate investing online.
What's going on, everyone? This is Brandon Turner, host of today's BiggerPockets Podcast, here with my co-host once again, my buddy, my friend, my homeboy, Mr. David Green. How you doing?
What is going on, Brandon? I'm doing great. I'm on Cloud 9 right now. We just had an incredible interview with two of the most successful people that I think are walking around in America, and we're going to get to share this with everybody.
Yeah, what's cool about today's episode is not only are these probably the two most successful people that I know personally in my life, some of the most successful people I know and people that I look up to a lot, but they're also some of our most popular, I think both are in the top 10 most popular podcasts we've ever done individually, and we brought them in together today to do an amazing show. And we just got done recording it, and man, they delivered. It's really, really, really good. So before we introduce them and talk about them, let's get to today's quick tip. Today's a quick tip.
Hello, BiggerPockets podcast listeners. This is Lauren Hogan, Director of Marketing at BiggerPockets. I have very exciting news to share with you. We have added state-specific landlord forms as the newest feature of the BiggerPockets Pro annual membership. These 8 forms are the essential starter pack for any landlord. They are easy to use, you can fill them out electronically, and we'll keep you updated as laws change. We currently have 35 states plus Washington, D.C., and we are working towards all 50. Become a Pro annual member and gain access to this essential part of every investor's toolbox.
So today we have on two amazing people. First of all, Hal Elrod, who was on episode number 157 of the BiggerPockets podcast. That title was A Life-Changing Morning Ritual with Hal Elrod. And then David Osborn was on episode, what number was that? Did you got that handy? I don't know. Basically, episode where he talked about going from becoming a D student to making $400,000 in annual rental property cash flow. David Osborn is one of the most successful real estate investors we've ever had in the show, and one of the most successful people I know with real estate. So you guys will love today's show. It's all about wealth. And yeah,
he was on episode 226.
Thank
if you want to check that out. Awesome episode.
Yeah, it was really, really good. So check those things out. Now, to read what we're kind of talking about today, I wanted to read you a section of their new book. So they wrote a book together. It's awesome. But I want to read you a little paragraph here because it kind of summarizes what today's show is a lot about. So here they go. Here's the quote from the book. Imagine a day where you set the agenda, one where the things that matter to you are clear and the steps ahead are exciting. That's what the Miracle Morning offers you, not just the possibility of financial wealth, but also the abundance of peace and the sense of control over your life. And so we're going to talk about that today, how a morning ritual can help you actually build wealth. And we're going to go through a ton of wealth building strategies, tips, tricks, things that mindset changes that you need to have if you want to build true wealth, whether it's through real estate or through anything. These things are going to come in handy. So, and last thing before we get to the interview, I want to invite you guys personally to this week's upcoming webinar. We're going to be analyzing deals live in an online class this coming deal, talking about rental properties specifically, because I love rental properties. But if you're into real estate, you want to get into real estate, you're new to real estate, make sure you show up. Just go to biggerpockets.com/webinar and you can sign up there. All right, let's get on with this thing. All right, Hal and David, welcome back to the BiggerPockets Podcast. Good to have you guys here.
Great to be here. Good to be back, but this time all together. This is cool.
Yeah, it's like a family reunion, so to speak.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess, all 3 of us, or 4 of us, know each other from other places besides just this podcast, which is kind of cool. So it's fun to be able to bring us all kind of together. We're all GoBundance guys. And yeah, in fact, I think actually the reason I'm friends with David is because, Hal, you introduced us back 3 years ago, which is, I don't know if you remember that, but yeah, you're the reason that David's here even. So thanks.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
All right. So I want to start this thing. Obviously, you guys were both on the show before, and people should go back and listen to them. But why don't we just start with an update on what's been going on in your guys' lives the last few years since you've been on the show? Hal, it's been, I think, 2.5, 3 years since you've been on, and David, it's been a year. So maybe we'll start with Hal. What have you been up to?
Yeah, I guess what stands out the most is I was fighting cancer for a lot of the last year or so. I was about a year and a half ago diagnosed with a really rare aggressive form of cancer. I went into the hospital and my lungs, kidneys, and heart was failing, and I was given a 30% chance of living. This particular cancer is actually a 20 to 30% survival rate, and I'm a really healthy person, so it was very, very unexpected, really surprising, and I applied something that I call the miracle equation, which we could chat about, at some point later if we have time. But I'm grateful to say that I defied the odds and I beat the cancer. And it's really a lifelong journey. A lot of people come, I'm in what's called remission, and a lot of people come out of remission, right? So I'm really trying to make sure that my lifestyle stays in alignment with staying healthy for the rest of my life. And so, and then most recently, David and I just got back this last weekend from Sedona, Arizona, where the world premiere of the Miracle Morning movie took place, and I'm still processing it. I was last night falling asleep going, I need to stop and be present to how crazy this is, that there's a movie, about the Miracle Morning in my life. And, and David was an executive producer on the film. And we just got to be the featured film at the Illuminate Film Festival, and to a big packed house of 400 people, I think. And it was pretty wild. So those are some things that are going on. And of course, this new book, Miracle Morning Millionaires, Dave and I just co-authored. This one just came out last month. So lots going on all at once.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was really jealous when I saw you guys. There was a few people I know that were down there at the movie screening. I was like, dang it, I want to be there. Anyway, all right. David, what have you been up to the last year?
Yeah. Well, first off, that movie experience was incredible. It was the marquee night, the grand stage, and the room was packed, standing ovation, brilliant movie, the Miracle Morning movie, and super fun to be a part of it. And Hal's generous in giving me credit, but I'm his good friend, and I'm always a stand for Hal to win at everything he does. And really, he and his team just put together what I think has got great legs in continuing the Miracle Morning miracle, which is really what it is. I have been a dad, so I've got now my I guess last time my kid was just born, now he's 18 months old. He's way different than my little girl. If you look away from him for a minute and he's holding a stick, he'll just hit you right in the head. Or he's so much more aggressive. She was so sweet, and he hit me with I was saying goodbye to him to go to Sedona for the Miracle Morning, and he had a golf ball in his hand. I looked over to my wife, and he smacked me in the back of the head with the golf ball. Then I looked over at him, and he's just smiling. I'm like, you are like a little guy. I could just destroy you right now, but I guess I won't. He's so that's fun. And then I wrote this book with Hal, The Miracle Morning Millionaire, which has been a great project. I'm such a fan of the Miracle Morning community, and to do the one around wealth, which I think is my specialty, is something that was a pleasure and a great gift. And then lastly, I created a private equity fund, since we all spoke before. So I've been making money a lot with my money for many, many years. I've had investors co-invest with me, and I just finally decided to go big and create a private equity fund for single-family rentals and single-family flips. And we've raised close to 25 million so far, on our way to hopefully 100 million. So it's a lot of fun, and I've got a great team assembled over there, and that's keeping me busy.
And I gave him some money, so I'm counting on that fund doing really well.
Hal is an investor.
That's awesome.
Past results are no guarantee of future returns, Hal, just so you know.
All right. So tell me, guys, you wrote this book, the Miracle Morning for Millionaires. How would each of you define the Miracle Morning in your own words?
So Miracle Morning, to me, it's a personal development ritual that is designed to help you become the person that you need to be to create everything that you want for your life. And that was the original quote that inspired the Miracle Morning. For when I first thought of this, was from Jim Rohn. And Jim Rohn says, your level of success will seldom exceed your level of personal development, because success is something you attract by the person you become. And in that moment when I heard the quote, I had this huge, eye-opening epiphany. And I went, wait a minute. I'm not dedicating time to my personal development every day, at least not at the level that I need to really become the person that I need to be, that can attract or create or sustain the success that I want. And I really believe that is the disconnect for 95% of our society. Is everybody wants, on a scale of 1 to 10, level 10 success, but very few people are focusing every day on becoming a level 10 person. physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, intellectually, in every way. And that's the only way that we achieve the success that we want, at least for the long term, is it's not about chasing that success, staying as you are. It's about becoming a better version of yourself every single day so that you become the person where the way you think, the way you live, the way you speak, the habits that you have, you can't help but succeed, not because of what you're trying to do, but because of who you've become and what you do automatically as a result of that. And that's what the Miracle Morning is. It's doing that every single day.
I love that.
So what you're saying is we have the power, we have the control to get what we want if we start by focusing on ourselves, not wishing the rest of the world would just give us what it is we want.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think people are, right. I think, who was it? Tony Robbins, that said, the definition of success or insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. And I think that's often it. We go through life like, when is it my turn? When am I going to catch my lucky break? And you don't catch your lucky break, you create your lucky break, right? And that, again, that really speaks to the essence of developing yourself into the type of person that can create the success that you want in your life.
What's great about what Hal just said also is first off, you could give credit for any great quote to Tony Robbins because he's probably said it at some point or other. So you could always use him.
So true.
And then secondly, the reason people like me resonate with the Miracle Morning so clearly and why I was excited to write the Miracle Morning Millionaires is because we have figured out in life that it's not about overthinking things. It's about finding things that work and putting them into action quickly. And when I read the Miracle Morning book, even though I was already a multimillionaire and extremely successful in many areas, I was stunned by the simplicity of this new morning ritual I could add to my life that takes 1 hour, some of which I was already doing. I was always scribing in the morning and I was reading in the morning, but to have all 6 digestible, usable, and making it a ritual you do every single morning with your first hour, it's just like an instant light bulb. I don't have to think. I know it'll work the minute I read it. So once I got through Hal's first book, which was amazing, and just so the wisdom, when you have a book that's so great with content, it's just so rare and such a pleasure because so many books are just full of the same old, and the Miracle Morning was just like, yeah, this is all out there, but let me tie it together for you in a simple, graspable way. And so when Hal also said, hey, let's write the Miracle Morning Millionaires together, which I was very interested in too, I was like, just tweak this a tiny bit towards wealth, and that Savers program added into wealth, they just go together like peanut butter and jelly. It's just a natural fit. And so I was excited to do the book with Hal, and I think we've created something pretty special in Miracle Morning Millionaires.
Well, so Hal, why did you grab David to write it? I mean, I'm assuming you know lots of wealthy people, so why David?
Yeah.
And why did you write it? Like, why did you think it was important to write?
Well, none as good looking as David. That if you're watching the video, that's like the obvious reason. But no. In all seriousness, if you look behind me on the wall, if you're watching the video, right, we've got roughly 10 books in the Miracle Morning series. We have Miracle Morning for entrepreneurs, for college students, for writers, for salespeople, for real estate agents, on and on and on. And so the series was born, 3 or 4 years ago. And David and I have been friends for a couple of years, and he would bring up in conversation all the time, hey, we should do a Miracle Morning book together. And my thought was always, I love that, but I didn't know what it would be because David is a real estate mogul. That's one area, and I thought, gosh, we already wrote the Miracle Morning for real estate agents. You would have been the great guy to do that one. But it just every time he would bring it up, I would kind of feel guilty, like, yeah, but I don't know which one we would do. And so a year or so went by with us just kind of mentioning it, chatting about it, but nothing real concrete. And ironically, the very first book that I had an idea for in the series, it was Miracle Morning Millionaires. And the tagline was my very first idea. It's what we ended up using as the subtitle, What the Wealthy Do Before 8 a.m. That Will Make You Rich. And yeah, there you go. David's holding it up right there. And the idea was, so just to be clear, this isn't the Miracle Morning for millionaires. This isn't like, okay, when I become a millionaire, then I read this book. This is Miracle Morning Millionaires, What the Wealthy Do Before 8 a.m. That Will Make You Rich. So it's for people that want to become millionaires or want to become wealthy and studying what do wealthy people do for their morning rituals, right? So that's kind of the idea. And so it just one day I was looking through my notes of different book title ideas I had, and I saw Miracle Morning Millionaires in my notes, and I went, wait a minute. I had forgotten about that. I hadn't even thought about it for years. And I got excited. I called David. I said, David, you've been wanting to write a Miracle Morning book. I have the book that you are the most qualified person that I know to write it. And And I want to say the last thing I want to say on that is this: is David is a multi-millionaire, so he's qualified in that regard. But I talk about in the book that my definition of wealth is really living in alignment with your values. To me, that's being wealthy, right? And if you value having financial freedom, right, well then being wealthy in terms of financially, that's living in alignment with that one value. But that's the thing, is it's only one value. So when being wealthy is about living in alignment with your values, only one of those values has to do with money. The rest are around, valuing family, valuing freedom, valuing health, valuing friendships, relationships. And to me, David embodies that, So to my definition of wealth, not just being about the dollars in your bank account or your net worth, being more of a holistic definition, that's where it was a beautiful synergy. Was, to me, David, he fit the standard definition of wealthy, but he fit my definition of wealthy, as living in alignment with his values. Nobody does it better, in my opinion.
Wow, that's fantastic. I totally agree. Everything I know about David, I 100% agree with that. So, all right. So we covered obviously the morning stuff, the rituals, all that a lot the last time we talked to you, Hal. But why don't we just run through a little bit about that before we move on to wealth? First of all, let's go through the objections people have. I don't like waking up early. I'm not a morning person. I've got kids. I can't get up before them, right? They need me the first thing in the morning. I don't get enough sleep as it is. I got so much going on in my life. I can't do it. All the excuses you've heard 100 times, right? What's your general response? And each of you, if you want to answer it, or just Hal, it's up to you.
Yeah, so the general response is, the biggest objection is I'm not a morning person. And when I was writing the original Miracle Morning book, that was the voice in my head, which created a lot of kind of insecurity going, people have such a deeply rooted limiting belief that says, I'm not a morning person, and I've never been a morning person, and I've even tried before, and it didn't work for me, right? And so when I was writing the book, I go, how am I going to break through that? Like, who in the hell am I? How am I going to convince somebody to do this for more than a few days? You know what I mean? And so now, fast forward 5-6 years later since the original book published, we have around 500,000 people that do this every day, and people post in the Miracle Morning community all the time. I'm on day 30. I'm on day 300. I'm on day 1,259. Right? I mean, it's insane. So the question or the objection of I'm not a morning person. Number one, I wasn't a morning person when I came up with the Miracle Morning. But I had read enough articles on world-renowned individuals in every field, from world champion athletes to multimillionaires to CEOs to world-class entrepreneurs. And the one thing that they had in common more than any other was that they were early risers. They had a morning ritual that set the tone and the context for their day, that allowed them to grow every morning into a better version of themselves so they could be better than they were yesterday each and every single day. And so that was my first aha, is I thought the morning ritual isn't just like one thing that might help a little or it might not, maybe I should try it. It was the linchpin to success, because the only way to create a successful life is one day at a time. And the only way to create a successful day is really to start with a successful morning, and then you're off to the races. And the last thing I'll share on that is I was asked during an interview a couple of years ago, what percentage of the Miracle Morning community, what percentage of them were not morning people before? So this was a huge, breakthrough for them to think, well, I've never been a morning person and now I am. And what percentage of them were already morning people? So this was just doing something different in the morning instead of checking email. And I didn't know the answer to that question. So I surveyed our community, hundreds of thousands of people, and I was really blown away. 72% of the Miracle Morning practitioners said they had never in their entire life been a morning person until they read the Miracle Morning and started practicing it. So that's what I would say is, if you're not a morning person, join the club. If you think you can't be a morning person, you are wrong, and it's been proven now by hundreds of thousands of people, right? And then the third thing is that start creating a morning ritual in the morning arguably will change your life more than any other single change that you can make. The ripple effect of how you start your day and doing it in an optimum way, it changes everything for you. And I'll let David take it from here, but there was one other thing I was going to say. I'll remember it while David's talking. David, what
so
are your
yeah,
thoughts?
so there's no question being a guy that was a night owl. I started off as a night owl. I used to even have a whole philosophy around why I was a night owl, because no one would bother me. I could work late at night. I could get all kinds of work done. When the world was sleeping at midnight, I was able to get stuff done. And I lived on that philosophy well into my early career. And I really believed it. But what happened is, I would start staying up till 1 or 2 or 3, and then I'd find maybe I had an important appointment at 7 o'clock or something in the morning, so I'd have to get up at 6. I'd roll in, I'd be tired, I'd screw up the appointment, I'd stumble on my words, I'd forget things. I got to where I'd say, okay, I've got an early appointment tomorrow, I'll go to bed early, and I couldn't fall asleep because I was so used to staying up till 1 or 2 in the morning. I was always wrecked for half the day, and then everybody else is up, so by 9 or 10 or 11, my day was just blowing up anyway. There was nothing I could do. So if I'm getting up at 7:30 or 8, and then I've got an hour to eat breakfast and do my thing, and then roll into my day when it's already starting to come at me, I never really got ahead of the day. I was always playing catch up. So even prior to the Miracle Morning, I had started shifting my schedule earlier and earlier. And as I shifted my schedule earlier and earlier, I got more and more successful. And when you have kids, it takes it to an even further level, right? Because you get up before your kids. You get that quiet time in the house where you get to sit there. And then what Hal added was the dimension of, okay, if you're going to get up early, which I was already devoted to that. I had made the transition from, that night owl stuff, it might be great in college when you don't really have that much to do other than what people tell you to do. But when you're in mastery and in control of your own life, that morning is how you set up the day. It's how you align your railroad tracks for massive success. And then Hal gave me the 6 things you should do every morning. I was like, wow, I'm doing a couple of these, but not all of them. This is exactly what I'm going to do every single morning. And it became like the aha moment of tying it all together for me. And I'm rarely up without a 5 in front of my digits in the morning. I'm usually up sometime between 5 a.m. and maybe 6:05 at the latest. And I love it. And I get the visualization done in bed. I do the affirmations in bed often, the silence in bed so I won't wake my wife up too much. And then I pop out, go do my reading and my scribing. And so Hal tied all that together. And I've gotten more and more successful as time has gone on. And by the way, more and more success doesn't necessarily mean less. It actually means more and more activity and things going on in your life. So you have to really manage it all extremely well. And the Savers just gives me that opportunity to get up in the morning and really just kind of like lock it in so that day is going to be a successful day. And the days I do it are so much better than the days I don't. So yeah, for me, that's where the Miracle Morning was just like, there's not anything in here that in and of itself is like some magic recipe. But this behavior tied into what I was already a believer in is enough to absolutely change your life.
Yeah, I totally agree. I feel like, like you mentioned, both of you guys mentioned like this intentionality sort of, like you're not living reactively to whatever the day's going to throw at you. You're saying, hey, I'm going to define the day. And what I found is when I started doing the Miracle Morning, it totally changed my life as well. And I even got my sister now doing it, who, Amber, shout out to you. She got 5 kids. All under the age of 7, like crazy life, right? And she's waking up super early, hitting the gym, doing the Savers, everything. And she loves it. So like, whatever people listening to this have an excuse, like I wasn't a morning person, my sister wasn't a morning person, you do it anyways, right? So like just having that intentionality, that got me excited about waking up. So,
and if you have kids, you need it more.
Yeah.
Like when people go, I have kids, I go, no, I already have to, no. Yeah, you need it more, right? You need to give to yourself first so that you can be the best mom or be the best dad that your children deserve, and it's hard to do that when you're waking up when they're waking up, right? Or just minutes before. You haven't gotten a chance to meditate and calm yourself down and get centered and gain clarity, and you haven't got, and plan the day. And maybe like for me every morning, here's a little bonus tip. Going into this year, I have a rule that I'm not allowed to read a business book until I've read 10 pages of a parenting book every single day, or a marriage book, right? One of those two. And that's been a game changer because I would gravitate toward business books always, and then I would almost never get to the marriage books. They would just stack up on my shelf, right? And now every morning I'm reading that. So I'm literally learning how to be a better dad, and a better husband every single day before the kids wake up. And then when they wake up, I'm like, I can apply something I learned, that morning.
It's so effective.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Brandon. It's so effective that my wife and I are even in the process of buying a new house, and we bought it already. We're remodeling it. We're like 100 yards from Hal and his wife because our kids get along, our wives get along. But one of the conversations was, hey, where are we going to do our miracle morning? Like, and can we get some really cool meditation chairs that are like rounded so we can sit in the chair and meditate? Like, that is part of our conversation now.
Nice.
Because we know it ties us together in so many different ways. And when you get into Miracle Morning Millionaires, the one thing about the wealthy that is consistent across the board, every single wealthy person you'll ever meet is purposeful. They are purposeful towards the objectives and the goals they have in life. And that's what's cool about me saying that is all three of you were nodding like this at exactly the same time, because you know what I know, which is that there's no way you win in life without having your agenda and being purposeful towards that agenda, because there's way too much chaos and noise. And what the Miracle Morning does for you, and specifically as it relates to wealth, is you get to own your agenda. You get to take life and say, okay, this is how today is going to go. I'm going to be peaceful. I'm going to be loving. I'm going to be in my visualizations. I'm going to be in my positive mindset. I'm going to have a little personal journal about how the day is going to be great, about gratitude. I'm going to read a positive book about relationship. Now I'm going to add that and then into business. And boom, you've like taken that 1 hour and you are now purposeful for your life. And when the first things come in, you're like, no, I'm ready for this. I've got my armor up. I've got my shields. I've got my purpose. And that's why it works so well with wealth. The Miracle Morning does.
Yeah, that's so good. I like that both of you guys mentioned this idea of reading books, like relationship books, right? Because like as business people, we get so into like, I'm going to read business books all the time. Like when I was I had 100 real estate books, right? But like if we really value other things in life, like our relationships, family, wife, kids, why not learn that as well? So thank you for mentioning that. That's awesome. So now, David, you mentioned... Absolutely. Yeah, you mentioned wealth. They're intentional about it. They're choosing to be wealthy, and that's a big part of this book as well. Which one thing I really, really like that part of this book, talking about how wealth is a choice. Now, I read an article recently. I think it was on Forbes or Business Insider or something like that, and it said wealth is. It said studies show wealth is from luck only. That was like the title of the article, and the whole thing was this guy saying if you're rich, it's only because you're lucky. But you argue against that. You're saying in the book that you can choose to be wealthy. Can you talk about that?
First off, a friend of mine sent me that article, a friend of mine who happens to work for the state and doesn't really want to be wealthy, a good friend, actually, very intelligent guy. And he said, what do you think about this article? And I know the question behind the question is, you're just a lucky SOB, right?
Yep.
So, it was an interesting article, and I have an answer for him, but I'll go back to why it's a choice. Specifically, if you chose to be healthy, let's say you were out of shape and you said, I'm going to choose to be healthy. And in the book, we talk about this analogy of like, life is like a game show. And they say, okay, all you got to do to have $1 million is choose which door to walk through. There's door number 1 and door number 2. And by the way, the money's behind door number 1. So choose door number 1. And you're like, wait, this must be a trick. There's just no way it can be that simple. It can't be as simple as making a choice. But the reality is, it is that simple. If you chose to be healthy and you said, I'm going to be healthy, what would you do? You'd read a book on nutrition. And that book on nutrition would say, walk around the outside of the store, all of us know this, and buy the healthy living foods and eat that. And so if you then made that choice, you would read that book, you'd have that information, you'd walk around the outside of the store and you'd eat more salads and more vegetables, and you'd maybe do all these better choices for your life, like the keto diet, like my wife and I do right now. So that's as simple as it takes to be healthy. You'd exercise more, you'd stretch, you'd go to bed early, you'd get a good rest, you'd do your Miracle Morning in the morning. Wealth's the same thing, man. People just think it's like some lucky break. It's a choice. And if you choose to be wealthy, you will save some money. You will invest it. You will hold your investments responsible for a rate of return. You will hang out with people that are wealthy. You'll learn the ABCs of what it takes to be a more valuable person so you make more money. You'll do all these things, and that will lead to luck. And then you will get lucky and you will make money. So there's not a single extremely wealthy person I know that hasn't had a lucky break or two, but every single wealthy person I know put themselves in a position to get that lucky break. And I go back to my friend who sent me this article, and I'm thinking, at the bottom of the crash with this particular friend, I said, hey, I know a place where real estate is really cheap. I'm maxed out on my mortgages. If you fly out there and find a local bank, because you can't do it from here, it's a different state, so you have to fly out there, I'll put all the capital up, all the principal, and we'll split the profits on these homes, and we'll buy 10 together in this area. And you know what? We got one because I muscled it forward, and that's all we ever got. And there's not one friend, there's two friends that I offered that same deal to that I said, go out here to this market where you can buy home right now for $50,000 that will rent for $800 a month. Today, they're all worth $90, so you couldn't do it anymore. And, neither of them did it. And I was busy. I had a lot going on. I was busy taking advantage of that downturn, which was my second lucky break in life, to build assets. and neither one of them took it. So that's an example in my mind of, yeah, if you were willing to work hard and seize that opportunity, he too would have gotten lucky, as all of us that bought real estate at the bottom did. But I think it's luck meeting preparation, opportunity meeting preparation equals luck. And you never get that luck unless you're prepared.
Did you guys notice what David just said there? I thought it was fascinating. He said the economic downturn, which was my second lucky break, right? Like only like wealthy people think like that. Like the economic downturn was my lucky break. I don't know. I think that's a really powerful way of looking at it. Most people are like the economic downturn when life got horrible for everybody. You know, like it's how you look at something.
Yeah, you feel you almost feel guilty saying that because it was stressful for me too. I was scared like everyone else. There was blood in the streets, but I also took advantage of that downturn. It ended up becoming the second greatest wealth building opportunity for me in my life. And I still feel like I left a lot of chips on the table. I wished I had been more courageous and took advantage of more. But in spite of all that, I'm super grateful for how lucky I was that I was able to. I already had bought a lot of real estate. I had experience in that space. I had some wealthy friends, but not a lot. I had some capital that I'd saved up. So all of those things enabled me to take advantage of a mispriced asset, which suddenly it became clear to me that real estate was mispriced. Not in 08, not in 09, not even in 10, but around 11, late 10, 2011. I was like, this isn't right. This is all too cheap. I need to buy as much of it as I can. And that's what I started doing. And if it ever happened a third time, now I've got a lot of friends that have a lot of money. I could really take advantage of another crash. But of course, I don't like the impact of the crash. I have a lot of things out there right now that would be hurt by a crash. So there's terror, but there's also opportunity in that bottom. And I think almost all the wealthy that I know that are in real estate that survived the crash made more money because of the crash than they did before.
You know, you mentioned that when opportunity meets preparation, that's luck. Right. And there was opportunity for everybody in 2010, 11, and 12, but very few people were prepared. And that's why they feel like, well, I just wasn't lucky. I wasn't one of the lucky guys. Well, you just left out half of the equation. That's all that it was. Dave, you put yourself in a position where you had managed your money well, you had saved it, so you're ready to act when that opportunity came. And I tell people all the time, we can't control when opportunity is going to show up. I have no control over when the market's going to go down or someone's going to bring me a deal. That just happens. But I can control whether I'm prepared. And that's what we should be focusing on. If these people who during 2003 through 2006 who are making the most money of their lives were saving it, they would have been prepared when that came too. And I just think that that's like a really good thing to point out. A lot of people get upset that other people got wealthy, but we don't get upset when we see somebody get in great shape. When no one's begrudging someone saying, oh, look at that jerk with his six-pack abs. Well, who does he think he is? There's more to life than six-pack abs, you know, right? But when it comes to money, there's this stigma that goes along with it, even though, like Dave, you said it's the exact same thing.
Six-pack abs don't buy happiness.
Yes, right? I don't want to get six-pack abs because I don't want to be a jerk. Like
I got a six-pack abs. I just keep it hidden under a little layer of fat. So, Dave, you're right on. And so let me give you an example of that. In the Millionaire Morning Miracle, in the Miracle Morning Millionaires book, we talk about
the title.
Yeah. No, don't ask me about bigger pockets either. That's a whole other butchering of the title.
Deeper Pockets.
So I just butchered my own book title, so you guys will know Deeper Pockets, right?
There you go.
That's what I did last time. I felt terrible. I was apologizing for half the podcast. But now I did my own title. Miracle Morning Millionaires, we talk about choosing to be strategic. And David, one of the things that happened to me in the last downturn is I knew suddenly, like around 11, I should buy everything. And I had some friends with some money, but not a lot of money. So I used their money to make more money, and they invested with me, and I raised about $500,000. And those guys made, 42% annualized, 27% in 9 months. And some of them rode along with me, and they were always in the 30s. We were just killing it, right? But I didn't know enough wealthy people because I could have honestly bought $200 million worth of assets in that downturn and turned it into $500 million. That's how mispriced real estate was. So being strategic, which we talk about in the book, since then, I've upgraded my social circle. I still have my friends that have 100 or 200,000 to invest, but I have consciously built a circle now of people that are all in the 100, 200, 300 million, and I've done it strategically. It's just as easy to be nice to wealthy people as it is to be nice to middle class or upper middle class people, and they want the same things. They want community, they want friendship, they want kindness. They usually want people that give to their charities, so I've strategically given to a lot of charities that different people run that are wealthy. And now I have a group of friends that I hang out with once a month. They're all worth over $100 million. and we visit and learn together. But I can tell you what, if there's a downturn, I'd be going to those people and say, hey, don't give me $100,000, give me $5 million, and I'll turn it into 8 or 9 for you. So that's part of being strategic. So yes, it was opportunity meeting preparation, and I'm getting prepared right now, David, for the next opportunity by being kind to these high net worth people who I actually really like, and building a circle, and that's part of my preparation, my being strategic for the next possibility.
And like a jerk, you're giving money away to charities and being kind to people.
I know, it's terrible.
Stereotype. Yeah. One of the things, Dave, that you talk about, that Brandon and I, we talk about it ourselves, we both love it, is your concept of an air game versus a ground game. I'm constantly taking that analogy and applying it into my life. Can you share that with us as a way that people can get prepared for opportunity while still taking care of their, daily responsibilities?
Yeah, sure. The ground game is what you do naturally. If you're born and your dad's a dentist and you go through college and you go to dental school, you're probably a dentist. That's all ground game. It comes from football. If you're the guy running the ball, you're a football player. That's your ground game. But the guys doing the air game are the people designing the game plan for that football game. If you're a dentist your whole life, you don't click into air game mode. Air game is okay, where am I going? What am I doing with my life? What direction do I want to go? Am I taking the actions today that lead to great health, great wealth, great relationship? And that's why the Miracle Morning is such a natural, unbelievable tool that covers all the pieces of the air game. So the air game is you taking ownership of your life, going up to the 40,000 square foot level, looking down on it and saying, is the path I'm on getting me to where I want to go? And if you ask that question, you'll get a yes or a no. And if the answer is no, and in what areas? And if the answer is like, I'm working all the time, so I'm not spending time with my kids, that would be an answer that might come back. Then you could use your air game to say, okay, I'm going to spend one day every week just with my kids. I'll choose Saturday, lock it in, drop it into your ground game, which is what you do every day naturally. And now all of a sudden you're leading your life instead of just being led by your life.
That's so good. Yeah, I love that idea. And again, that's where the Miracle Morning, I think, comes in so handy is, you're taking time out of your day to do that air game, to plan, to figure out where you're going. So do you have any advice, I should say, on like building that vision of where you want to go? Like, I mean, now people, they want to get wealthy, but then that's as far as most people in the world even take it. They want to get wealthy. They've chosen, so to speak, to become wealthy, but they don't ever do anything about it. So what do you think?
Well, they haven't. They've wanting to be wealthy is not the same as choosing it. Wanting to be wealthy implies a lack thereof. Wanting to be healthy implies a lack thereof. Wanting something doesn't get it for you. Choosing it leads to actions that you have to take towards your health. So that's why we say in the book, it's as simple as choosing door number 1, where the $1 million is, and knowing that. Now, then if you chose to be wealthy or chose to be healthy, one of the things you'd have to know is wealthy people are purposeful. Wealthy people have goals. Wealthy people are strategic. So, everybody, I posted something recently and I saw somebody put, I said about hard work. It said the work ethic you bring to anything is the work ethic you bring to everything. And some guy put in there, that's a slave mentality is what he put. And I thought it was very interesting. But the reality is work ethic is not enough. Ants work hard every single day and they're still ants. What is effective is choosing a path where you can strategically leverage yourself to greater and greater success. So if you're a bricklayer, God bless you for a great work ethic, you're not going to get financially free by being the best bricklayer of all time. You are contributing a great thing to society. I honor the hardworking bricklayer. The way you would ask yourself, how could I get ahead wealthy? It might be, okay, how could I build a house with my bricklaying skills and all my friends that happen to be contractors? How could I buy a piece of dirt, maybe even ask the owner of my company, could I borrow some of the excess materials and build a house for almost nothing using all your connections, all your relationships, and your skills, and then have your first rental property or sell that asset to great cash? That's being strategic with your life. And then if you factor that into the Miracle Morning, what you would do in the morning is first off, you'd silence to center yourself, and then you'd affirm, I am a bricklayer who also invests in property. I am a bricklayer who is going to own rental properties. You would visualize yourself owning that and completing that first house where you would have a tenant paying you monthly. You would then read a book on how to own your own real estate, and you would scribe and write to yourself, okay, the action steps I have to take today, what are this, and this towards being a landlord and a real estate owner. And so that's really where it all ties together it's not just about working hard. It's the choice must lead to the actions which will lead you to winning. And if you ask yourself after making the choice, okay, what do I do now? I've chosen to be wealthy. with everything I know and all my relationships and all my skill sets, what are the next steps I should take to be wealthy? You'll get answers. And then you've just got to walk towards those answers.
Yeah, that's so cool. All right, so we could talk this stuff forever. Obviously, people should just go get the book, so I don't have to go through every point of the book because it's so good. I'm not even kidding; it's so good. But there are a few things I do want to hit. First of all, in the book, you talk about not so obvious millionaire principles, and I wanted to make sure we touch on these three things. First one was self-leadership. Second one was energy engineering, and third was unwavering focus. Can we spend a minute on each of those and explain what do you mean? Like, what is self-leadership? And then we'll move on to energy and focus.
Yeah, the idea of self-leadership is really, it starts with responsibility. And in 2008 is a great example. When the U.S. economy crashed, right, a lot of people maybe were let go of their jobs. Or for me, I had my own business. I was a coach, and I lost over half of my coaching clients because their income was affected by the economic downturn. And so that trickled down to me. It was like either they paid their rent or mortgage, or they paid their coach. And of course, I said, hey, go pay your rent or mortgage. I get it. And then I lost my house, as a result of all that. But the point is, self-leadership starts with responsibility. And I'm a big believer that to the degree that you accept responsibility for every aspect of your life determines the degree of power that you maintain to change any area of your life. And I'll give you an example. When I was 20 years old, I was, we covered the story on the first interview I did with you guys, but I was hit head on by a drunk driver at 70 miles an hour. Another car hit me in the door at 70 miles an hour. I broke 11 bones. My heart stopped beating for 6 minutes. I was in a coma for 6 days. Came out of the coma, was told I would never walk again. So again, I was 20 years old, and self-leadership was the mind. It began with the mindset of going, okay, I can't change what happened to me, but I am 100% responsible for how I interpret this, the meaning that I give it, and what actions I take moving forward. So I think the big problem, people go, well, wait a minute. I can't take responsibility for someone else. I can't take, how could you take responsibility for the drunk driver hit you? That wasn't your fault. And that's the big distinction, is that responsibility is not the same as blame. Blame determines who's at fault, but responsibility determines who's committed to changing things, to creating the circumstances that they want. And so while I wasn't at fault for the accident, it wasn't the drunk driver's responsibility for me to be happy, for me to learn to walk again, for me to have any kind of quality of life. None of that was his responsibility. And so that's where self-leadership begins. And I think with wealth and what David's talking about, where you make the choice, you choose door number one where the $1 million is. And if I think a lot of folks, myself included, back when I was thinking about building wealth, it was like, well, but I don't know how. Like, I don't even know, I just have a job that pays me X dollars, and there's no way I'm going to get wealthy off this job, this job, if you will. And so I think one of the, it starts with figuring out the what. So here's an example. If you're listening to this and you're like, all right, I'm at square one. I've got, maybe I'm 20 years old. I'm a millennial. And I've got a job, but or I'm in college. I don't know how to become wealthy. I don't know how to do that. Well, then it starts out by the choice begins with, I'm going to schedule time. Maybe it's 1 hour a day, 5 days a week. Maybe it's 4 hours on Saturday, or it's the entire day on whatever. I'm going to schedule time to figure out the how, right? That's the starting place, is figuring out the how. And so it's, okay, I'm going to work 1 hour a day, and I'm going to start reading, I'm going to read Miracle Morning Millionaires. Then I'm going to read Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. Then I'm going to read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Right? And you can't help but then learn and understand how to build wealth. Oh, you read books on building wealth and you understand how to build wealth, and then you can actually take the actions. So now you schedule that 5 hours a week that you're scheduling to learn how to become wealthy. Now only 2 hours of it's dedicated to learning, because now you've learned. And the other 3 hours is dedicated to implementing the stuff that you've learned over the previous weeks or months. And then you start to see results, right? So that's self-leadership. David, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I just, and people say, okay, so you've got to get all this lucky things to get wealthy. But really, I go back to the first house I ever bought, I think I made $55,000. I was a realtor. I had no money. I was showing property. I showed a lady a house. It was $77,000. Happened to be my sister. I said, hey, honey, are you going to buy this house? She said, no. I said, good, I am. So I bought that first house. Now I'm making, at that time, $55,000. I don't have any money. I buy this house. I had enough for a down payment. And then I moved into the house. I was 29 years old or 28 years old. And then I rented out rooms to roommates, which is funny. I think it's a great strategy. In my case, my friends hardly ever paid me rent, but it still kind of got in some money and it offset some of the bills. And that house today, I still own it. It's worth $300,000. And I bought it in 97. So what is that, 20 odd years ago? So you don't have to be massively wealthy to start this journey of wealth. Once you've read the books, Cash Flow Quadrant, once you've read the book like Wealth Can't Wait, and then you realize you can buy a house. Hey, that's a good book. You could buy a book, you could buy a house and then rent out to roommates. I mean, if you're a millennial, that's the perfect first step to do. And people say, well, you can't afford it where I want to live anymore. Well, then drive an hour. You know, we're talking about the choice to be wealthy. I don't want to eat carrots and vegetables every day. I'd rather eat cheesecake and ice cream every day. But I've made a choice to be healthy. And guess what? When I eat healthy, I get healthy. And if you want to build wealth, it's the choice to be wealthy. And if you got to buy a little further out, right now in Austin, Texas, if you're willing to go 50 minutes out of town, you can buy a home for about $200,000, 3-bedroom, maybe 4 if you're lucky. You could rent 2 of those bedrooms out for probably $750, and your entire payment, you would be living for free and building equity on the backs of your lazier friends who are too lazy to go buy their own darn house.
And building
if you don't think it can be
as well. Like you're building that knowledge experience.
Yeah. That's even the most important part is that by only thinking about it, you never get the experience. And if it's hard for you, we have a dreamer friend, and that dreamer friend is 27 years old and has like 8 rental properties and makes $40,000 or $50,000 free and clear after all expenses, never having had a proper work permit and everything else. So if you're thinking, oh, I couldn't do that.
He must be lucky. He must be
lucky. Yeah, Hal, he's so lucky, that kid. Yeah, he's really lucky. Had to bicycle to work because he couldn't get a driver's license. That's how lucky he was.
Yeah.
Awesome.
We're gonna get
so
on the show.
Take responsibility. Take responsibility. That's the key.
Yeah. And then energy engineering is the idea that for you to be able to, you know, I'll give you an example. Most people, I wish I had more motivation, right? And I really believe that it's energy that we want, because if you have an abundance of physical, mental, and emotional energy, that is motivation, right? And so, you know, in the chapter, we basically talk about that. If for you to be successful, you've got to engineer your life for optimum physical, mental, emotional, and even spiritual energy. And I'll give you a kind of the quick and dirty on this, if you will, is your diet. So I learned this years ago. The largest drain on our energy is what we eat. It's digesting food is what takes more energy than anything else. And if we go from meal to meal to meal and we're eating unhealthy food, processed food, heavy food, bread, meat, on and on, if you're eating poor food choices that aren't going to give you energy, in fact, they require more energy to digest than they give to your body, which is why you become in an energy deficit. That's why the 5-hour energy commercial, right? It's like, you ever get tired at 2:00 in the afternoon, right? Yeah, because you just had a chicken sandwich for lunch. You're digesting simple carbohydrates from the bread. You're digesting some hormone-infested chicken, most likely, right? Like, that's why you're tired at 2. You don't need a 5-hour energy. You need to eat a raw, vegan, or some form of health. You don't need to be extreme, but you need a healthy lunch, right? You need a lunch that doesn't have bread, doesn't have a lot of meat, and it's a small meal. That's why I think about Thanksgiving. What happens after Thanksgiving? Yep. Everybody finds a room at the house to take a nap in because you ate a lot of food. Now you're digesting that food and you're exhausted. You're fatigued. So anyway, to me, the biggest tip on energy engineering is eating for energy, where you place more value on the energetic consequences of the foods you eat than the value you place on the taste of the foods you eat. And it's not an either or. It's just that you go, okay, I'm going to learn. And by the way, go read a book on eating. Go Google eating for energy. I have a podcast on it. I've done an episode on it. There's books on it. But the idea is that you learn how to do that. And then you start engineering your life and it becomes easier and easier. And then you can go, okay, of all the types, now that I know what types of food give me energy, I'm going to actually play around and figure out what are the actual foods, the recipes, the salads, the dressings that are healthy and they give me energy that taste good. So like I said, it's not either or. It's not, oh, I have to give up good taste. No, it's you prioritize energy first, and then you figure out what are the foods that fit the criteria that are living, plant-based foods that will give me an abundance of energy, and then how do I make them taste really, really good? And and then you get to the point where you don't even think about I couldn't go back to the way that I used to eat now. And if I'm traveling and I have to eat unhealthy and I know it's going to drain my energy, it pains me as I'm eating, and I'm like, oh yeah, I used to love this. It tastes amazing, but I know I'm going to pay for it in an hour, and that's not worth it to me. So.
Yeah, that's so
David
good.
Osborn, anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think the energy thing is everything. Well, the beautiful thing about the journey towards wealth is that it's a complete and total package. So in other words, as you get healthier and you look after your body, you'll have more energy to make more money, to make better decisions. It's all a package. And that's once people really get it, every one of them will want everything, because the journey to wealth, the journey to abundance, the journey to all of these things, it's self-reinforcing. You end up getting I manage my energy so carefully, and sleep is exactly right. But I also manage my friends, who I hang out with. Hal and I have become friends by choice because he and I have a lot of common interests. We're both ambitious. We both care about our wives and our kids a lot. We have them in the same school. I moved near them, not because that's exactly where I wanted to live, but because I understand it takes a village to raise a child. I think I can influence his children, Sophie and Howie, as they grow. And I think he can influence my children as they grow. Hey, Soph. And we have another good friend nearby. These are choices I'm making because energy is so important. And our kids being looked after and being comforted and being in the right environment to grow personally is so important to me. But it all is a positive feedback loop. When my family's happy, I've got more productivity for work. When my energy and my body's right, I have more capacity for my family. And it all just ties together. And so that's what I love about the Miracle Morning and writing this book and just being on this journey of abundance.
That's awesome.
So on that note, one of the final chapters of the book is called The Miracle Equation. How can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, when I was 20 years old, I sold Cutco cutlery, and I was one of the Cutco's top sales reps. And it was this particular sales contest called a push period, where I wanted to break the all-time company record. I was trying to do something that 50-year history of the company had never been done before. And we were normally doing these 14-day push. It's called a push period. It was 14 days, and our manager announces the day before we're starting, and I had mentally had to really ramp myself up. I can do this. I know it's never been done. I've never done it, but I know I can do it. And our manager says, by the way, you guys, this particular push period is not 14 days. It's only 10 days because we have the conference 4 days earlier. And I went, no, you've got to be kidding me. The thought of doing it in 14 days felt nearly impossible. And then to go to 10 felt impossible. I reverse engineered it. I went, okay, if I were to make this what felt like a miracle happen, and this was long before the Miracle Morning, but I got to figure out what would it take. And I reverse engineered it. I came up with two decisions. Number one, unwavering faith. And number two, extraordinary effort. And I made the decision, in order for this to happen, I'm going to have a lot of self-doubt. I already do. So I'm going to have to maintain unwavering faith by repeating what I called the miracle mantra, which is I'm committed to selling blank or achieving blank no matter what. There's no other option. And I just repeat that over and over and over and over and over again. And when you do that, you literally are programming your subconscious to follow through with, I am committed to do blank no matter what. There is no other option. So that was the unwavering faith piece. And then the extraordinary effort was simply that I was committed to do whatever it took, morning till night, to achieve the goal. And long story short, in miraculous fashion, on the last day, the last hour, I sold 20% of the entire 2 weeks. And it was a miracle. And then I thought it was just me. I thought, well, I died in a car accident when I was younger. Maybe I have a special deal that God's hooking me up with or something. I don't know. So I thought I'm going to teach it and see if it works. I started teaching it to my colleague after colleague after colleague after colleague. And every single one of them, by putting forth unwavering faith, which is counterintuitive. If you're not on track for a goal, the faith usually goes out the window, and then the effort follows right behind it, because you think, why am I going to really try when I don't believe I can actually achieve this goal? I'm so far off of this goal. And so unwavering faith and extraordinary effort, I taught it to all these colleagues of mine, and it worked and I could literally name the names. Jerry Aze, on and on. Jerry, Robert, Taylor, they had the first ever, they hit the same milestone. The record was the 4-minute mile. After I broke it, they did it one after another, after another, after another, after another. I didn't teach them fancy sales strategies. I said, if you want to join the top 1% of our society, of the achievers in this world, that whether it's Michael Jordan, who when the game is on the line, he maintains unwavering faith that he can make the game-winning shot even if he missed the last 6 shots. Most people doubt themselves, not the champions. And he puts forth extraordinary effort until the last possible second to win the game. And that's a very rare mindset and approach to life. And, most recently I applied it to the cancer journey, and I really believe that's why I was able to defy the odds, and given a 30% chance of living, I maintained unwavering faith. I had a mantra: I'm going to beat this cancer no matter what. There's no other option. And then I put forth extraordinary effort. I did acupuncture. I did coffee enemas. I did ozone sauna. I did the craziest diets. I did whatever it took until the last moment. And, miraculously the cancer was beat. So that is the miracle equation, and I do believe it'll if you can start practicing that and integrate it into your miracle morning. Have affirmations that remind you, I'm committed to achieve these results. I'll put forth the extraordinary effort, do whatever it takes, and apply that to wealth. It'll transform your financial future.
That's so cool.
Well said.
Yeah. All right. Well, guys, this has been fantastic. I know there's a thousand more things we could talk about, but I'm just going to encourage everyone. You need to get the book. It's fantastic. Seriously, it's one of my favorite books I've read in a long, long time. Yeah. Miracle Morning Millionaire. Millionaires. Is it plural?
Millionaires. Miracle Morning Millionaires.
We want to make lots of millionaires.
Yes. Where can they get it at? Amazon?
Amazon is the best place. Get the audiobook, get the Kindle, get the paperback.
All right, good deal. Well, thank you guys so much.
This is my daughter, if you're watching the video, my future Miracle Morning Millionaire right there, Sophie.
There you go. Hi,
hey, Sophie.
All right,
thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been a lot of fun.
Thanks.
We'll see you guys around. All righty. That was our interview with David and Hal. That was awesome, just like I thought. I knew it would be, right? These guys are rock stars, and it was a lot of fun talking with them.
That was a lot of wisdom packed very, very compoundly into one episode.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff in there. And I had like a million notes, too, of things I wanted to cover, and we just did not get a chance to. I mean, things like the thing called the woodpecker, what is it called? The woodpecker principle?
Theory or
yeah, something like that. It's in the book. It's really good. The thing called the hedgehog concept, really, really good. How he talks about goal setting. They actually they go through a 4-step process for setting goals. And the first one, again, we didn't get to talk about this, but I wanted to, but we just ran out of time. But he talks about setting goals, or they talk about setting goals in a peak state. That was like mind blowing when I read that in the book. So make sure you guys just pick up a copy of the book. I think you'll love it. I just got mine over on Kindle, and I seriously took like 100 notes, like on my Evernote as I was going through it, of things that I was like, oh, this is so good. And then also one last thing to point out to look for when you're reading the book, look for the story that David Osborn tells in the book about the conversation he had with a billionaire when he had shingles. It's a really good story, and it's humorous, but it also demonstrates something really important about how you work your ground game. So I'm teasing the book a little bit there because I want you guys to go up and pick it up because it's really good. Again, we don't get any benefit from doing it. It's not like an affiliate thing or anything. I just really like these guys, and I really like the book. So support them, pick it up today, and jump into the show notes, of course, at the bottom of today's show, and let us know if you liked it. And with that, David, anything you want to add?
I just want to say that if you guys don't know who these two are, Hal is world renowned for being someone who coaches people into success. I mean, one of the most famous people in the entire world when it comes to helping people achieve their goals. And David Osborn is probably the most successful investor that has ever been on this podcast and that I know. He's one of my mentors. He's the person that got me into being a real estate agent. He's immensely successful. We don't have time to talk about all the stuff they do. But these are people who not only are they successful, but part of their life is teaching other people how to do the same thing. They packed it all into a book, and they packed it all into this podcast. I hope you guys really enjoyed that. If you want to know more, pick up the book, check out what's going on, and then ask questions in the forums. That's another great way to get people involved and to keep the ball rolling after it's been started.
There you go. Good deal. Good deal. All right, we got to get out of here. Thank you guys for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, share it over on your Facebook, your Instagram, your Snapchat if you're 9. And that's all I got for you. So with that, let's get out of here. David, you want to take us out?
This is David Green and Brandon Turner signing off.
No nickname?
You didn't give me anything this show.
Yes.
You're listening to BiggerPockets Radio, simplifying real estate for investors large and small. If you're here looking to learn about real estate investing without all the hype, you're in the right place. Be sure to join the millions of others who have benefited from BiggerPockets.com, your home for real estate investing online.